Chapter 2, Shifting Routines. Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, was written because as a citizen and a scientist, she noticed that there were no frogs singing in her neighborhood spring. Why was it that no one else had noticed this? This crisis was not in a remote Brazilian rainforest. DDT's effects was in everyone's backyard, in the vacant lot next door, in the ditches and creeks that kids played in. People didn't notice because they didn't grow up developing the sensory perception and mental search imagery that would make the silence of the frogs apparent. John Young, The Silence of Frogs. Coyote calls us off the beaten path, and Ojibwe legend prophesies that the green paths the people walk will become charred and blackened. Their hearts will grow heavy. Then the time will come to turn back on the charred, blackened trail and turn off into the small green byways again. It foresees that in the small green byways, the people will recover their strength, and with lifted hearts return to restore the blackened highways. The premise of this chapter is that we do need to turn back and reconnect with our natural roots in order to recover and restore. And that means shifting our routines. This chapter includes some heady theory about how learning happens, what we're really teaching, and why to shift routines. The next chapter will launch into useful descriptions of the 13 core routines of nature connection that underlie every moment of Coyote mentoring approach. If you don't need to know the why and just want the how, it's okay to skip these pages. Just remember to practice these core routines with those you mentor every day in every way. Core routines in any field, some synonyms. Core, heart, center, foundation, middle. Routine, round. Cycle, habit, practice, discipline. Connection, bond, relationship, communication, union. As a jazz musician in college, I was taught to practice certain core routines, listening to music, doing finger exercises, ear training, practicing scales, and jamming with other musicians. Poets, painters, hunters, gardeners, and even football players I have met report the same emphasis from their mentors on regular habits for learning. I am convinced curious educators can find core routines in just about any field of learning. How we learn, brain patterning. We humans practice routines to gain mastery in a discipline. Our tendency to form habits through repeated behavior endows us with skills, and it also shapes and defines our perceptions, which is why we notice things that are important to us. For years, we have referred to the process of learning through habit as brain patterning. Some would prefer to call it mind patterning, in order to align with emerging evidence that consciousness may have roots beyond the physical brain. There is now evidence of neurons within the heart, suggesting consciousness may reside there, while other scientists think that the mind must exist outside of the body in both individual and collective fields. For more information on alternative theories of mind, see the work of Joseph Chilton Pearce and Rupert Sheldrake. No matter how we may define brain or mind, and we leave this up to each reader to do for themselves, there is a consensus that we are habit-forming creatures, and these habits reinforce themselves and influence our perceptions and our behaviors. As an image, brain patterning brings home the message that through our habits, we physically shape and change ourselves continually. Brain patterning for skill development. Our brains take in everything we experience, far beyond our conscious awareness. If we repeat an activity, a mental image, or idea over a period of time, then our brain's neurological pathways form a shortcut, so we don't need to think about it. This repetition acts like a computer shortcut that saves searching through a maze to find our application, or like the kid's shortcut through the neighbor's yards that bypasses streets to get to school. Such shortcuts streamline behavior. That's why we're called brain patterning. Consider how you learn, and your own neurological shortcuts will come into view. Remember learning how to ride a tricycle? When your shiny red tricycle arrived in the driveway, you danced with glee, with excitement, focused attention, and mom and dad showing you how to set your feet on the pedals. You threw your brain and body into the awkward task of pushing those pedals around. The tricycle bolted forward. You did it. All that afternoon, they couldn't get you off that trike as you practiced and practiced. By the end of the day, you could scoot all the way up and down the driveway. On the morning of day 2, you focused and excitement and attention to navigate the bumps and pits of the driveway while pedaling. By the afternoon, your learning goal shifted to making the turn at both ends of the driveway while pedaling and avoiding bumps and pits. Desire and concentration added emotion from falling and getting back up, and a little more help from mom and dad, and you taught yourself to turn the handlebars just so and lean your body slightly to the inner side of the turn. Pedaling itself became second nature with your thinking mind to focus on the new subtleties. This is how core routines work to condition the brain towards the development of a skill. First, inherited biological potential, stimulated by mental focus and emotional excitement, plus a little help from a mentor, forges a neuronal pathway. Then repetition reinforces it into a brain pattern or unconscious mental habit, wrapped in a myelin sheath like electrical tape. Now, with no thought about the original basic pattern, you can add subtlety and complexity. This is how we learn to walk, how we learn to talk, how we learn to read words, and then read a whole book. Similarly, we learned to add and subtract and progress to calculus. In exactly this way, once my fingers learned the basic routines, my mind and soul were free to play jazz. Nobel laureate Paul MacLean, a scientific authority on the human brain, along with others, are well aware that brain patterning may be a manifestation of mind. In any case, it seems important to note that the heart is also a brain with neurons comprising 50% or more of its cells, with a new medical specialty called cardioneurology. If the body is entrained to the brain is entrained to the heart, which is to say the heart, not the brain, is the cardinal organ of the human body. If Joseph Chilton Pierce is right, bonding during infancy may influence the heart's connection between the midbrain and cerebral cortex, thus building a foundation for heart intelligence, or thinking with the heart. Randall L. Eaton, Brain, Mind, or Heart?